With Ukraine entering the fourth year since the full-scale invasion, tension is turning to whether an end to the all-out war could come in 2025. I sat down to discuss it with Andriy Yermak, the head of the presidential administration of Ukraine, and Jens Stoltenberg, former NATO Secretary General. Ukraine is entering the fourth year since the invasion in a month, and attention is turning to whether an end to hostilities could be possible and could come in 2025. Now, Ukraine's victory plan was presented by Volodymyr Zelensky in 2024 as the key framework to achieve a just and lasting peace. Where are we with the peace formula? Where are we with the plan?
It was very important that during the last year we have the opportunity to realize this, first of all, initiative of the President, which he announced in the G20 in Bali. It's a peace formula. I want to clarify the peace formula. It's 10 points which necessary implement to have the really opportunity to say that in juridical sense, in the all another sense, this war is ended, the just peace restored, and we settled all the crises which created this war. Next, you mentioned the victory plan of President Zelensky. Yes, it's a very important, very concrete document. What is necessary to do, first of all, for our partners and allies, to make the position of Ukraine strong for any potential future negotiations. It's a very important. Ukraine is a victim of aggressions. We are fighting practically 3 years against the country who is more than us, who have the more people, more weapons, and this is nuclear states. I think all these documents it's basic documents in which now in the consultation with the new administration of the elected President Trump and other alliance, we can go forward for the concrete steps to prepare to make position of Ukraine strong and of course to go to the end of this war by the just peace. No more than Ukrainians want to end this war.
Mr. Stoltenberg, with your tenure at NATO from 2014 to 2024, that's the year of Russia's first invasion in 2014 and then the full-scale invasion years later. Do you see we are getting closer to 2025, being able to put an end to it when it comes to the invasion that started not in 2022, but 10 years ago?
Wars are by nature unpredictable, so I'm very careful to predict exactly what will happen in 2025. Having said that, it's absolutely within reach to end this war this year, not least because Russia is paying a very high price. Yes, the situation is difficult on the battlefield. Yes, Russia is pushing and gaining some territory, but Russia is also paying a very high price. This war started, they thought they were able to take Kiev within days and Ukraine within weeks. That failed. The Ukrainians have been able to liberate 50% of the territory that Russia controlled in the beginning. They are losing more than 1,000 men per day. The casualty rate is like 1,000. Inflation now in Russia is officially around 10%. In reality, most likely much higher. The interest rate in the national bank is 21%. And they have an urgent lack of workforce because hundreds of thousands, millions have perhaps left the country. Many are at the front, many casualties, and then many are now working in the defense industry, so the rest of the economy is really suffering. So this is not the time to reduce the pressure on Russia. It's actually the time to step up, to convince them that they have to sit down and negotiate a just peace. And it's absolutely within reach to convince the United States to continue the military support to Ukraine. With Europeans stepping up, that will give Ukraine the military support they need.
To what extent, Mr. Yermak, do you want to see the Europeans stepping up now with the Americans, ideally, as we're waiting to hear more from the new administration?
First of all, necessary to be honest. why after the full-scale invasion we, with Mike Mayfall, decided to create the group for the sanctions. Because we saw in the beginning the sanctions which was issued look very good, but practically not work. The Russian economy, it's in the bad situations, and it will be increased. It's necessary to continue to work for these sanctions. But of course, if you ask about the Europeans, the President Zelensky was very clear and very honest in his address yesterday. We need to keep the unity of the Europe. We absolutely need close cooperations and close unity between European countries and United States. And I hope that the meeting between President Zelensky and President Trump will take place as soon as possible.
But there is, we've heard from Donald Trump during the campaign, so yes, it has to be looked at as some of the campaign narrative and campaign promises regarding that he would be able to finish the war in 24 hours, to put an end to it. Then that's the exchange we've heard about the first 100 days. Then we've heard about possibility of rather going into 6 months. The views that I've heard are about anything regarding 24 hours would be the worst case for Ukraine. So taking 100 days or 6 months is a better option for Ukraine. What do you think? How can the American administration step in there?
Well, first of all, I think that we need to realize that everyone wants this war to end. The challenge is that the quickest way of ending a war is to lose a war. But that will not bring peace. That will bring occupation of Ukraine. So the challenge is to end the war in a way that Ukraine prevails as a sovereign, independent nation in Europe. That's the challenge. And I don't think we can change Putin's mind. I believe that Putin has as an ambition to control Ukraine, to put in a puppet government in Kiev. But I think we can change his calculus, that if the price he has to pay to achieve that goal is too high, measured in the number of forces lost on the battlefield every day, measured in the number of armored vehicles, military equipment lost on the battlefield, but also measured when it comes to the economic cost, inflation, overheating the economy, high interest rates. Then he may change his calculus and actually be willing and be forced to sit down and negotiate, agree a just peace for Ukraine. And the only way to get there, to change his calculus, is to provide weapons to Ukraine.
Do you think we can force Russia to accept that rather than forcing Ukraine to accept something less favorable for Ukraine?
Look, in this sense, the President Zelensky very clear. He never go for any compromise for the independent territorial integrity, sovereignty of Ukraine. And why we are talking always that Ukraine need to be strong in any position? Because honestly, we are fighting practically 3 years against country which is more times bigger, more people. This country not democracy. Look, Ukraine not ask anything more than described by international law and the treaties which all the country respect, just for 1%. And we can explain the arguments, everything which explain in the peace formula, in the victory plan, it's 100% based on the international law.
What kind of security guarantees can we produce when it comes to somehow replacing or substituting the security guarantees which did not work during the Budapest Memorandum, but also with the impossibility of having the NATO security guarantees?
Well, I strongly believe that a lasting peace in Ukraine depends on solid security guarantees. Because the first step towards peace is some kind of ceasefire. At least that's very often the first step. And then a line is agreed. The challenge is that we have seen agreed lines in Ukraine before. Mm-hmm. After the annexation of Crimea and Russia went into Eastern Donbass in 2014, we got the Minsk I. Mm-hmm. That was the ceasefire line. The problem was that Russia violated that just after a few months. And then, of course, I say sometimes we need something better than Budapest, but perhaps it will not be Bucharest, meaning that in Bucharest NATO promised NATO membership. In Budapest we had the Budapest Memorandum that was only some paper and didn't prove credible at all. I believe that the strongest and the best security guarantee is Article 5, meaning NATO membership. It has worked. It can work again. And of course, it's for NATO to decide how far Article 5 apply. So I strongly believe that one way of ending this war in a credible way, which is not Minsk III, is actually to give strong and credible security guarantees, and then the cleanest and the best way is NATO membership. Of course, I realize that it is not enthusiasm for this in all capitals. So then maybe we also have to consider second-best solutions. And those second-best solutions are, first of all, and that will apply anyway, is to arm the Ukrainians to the teeth. Because if there was anything we did wrong in 2014, was that we didn't arm Ukraine from 2014 until 2022.
Very briefly, I really have few seconds. Do you think it was a mistake for Ukraine to give up on nuclear weapons?
I think we have to prove that it was not a mistake, because Andrei is absolutely right, and that is that if Ukraine loses this war and a nuclear power, Russia, is able to take control over Ukraine, then the lesson is that you need nuclear weapons to defend yourself. And it's wrong to give up nuclear weapons. So that just adds to the importance of us taking the responsibility to provide them with the weapons they need to defend themselves against a nuclear aggression.
Jens Stoltenberg, Andriy Yermak, thank you very much. Wish we had more time, trust me. I have so many questions left on my side too.
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the speakers for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.